With regards to red traffic lights, one of the dangers is where drivers just blindly follow the driver ahead of them. In the animation, what we have here are vehicles now crossing an intersection. We have the driver of the green vehicle on the side waiting for the traffic light to go green. At this point, you can see that for these vehicles, the traffic light has gone amber. So for these two vehicles, they're already within the intersection, so still safe for them to cross. For the driver of the white vehicle, possibly to cross still because he's fairly close to the intersection. However, for the driver of the red vehicle, he's still quite a distance from the intersection, so he's got time to slow down and come to a stop. Let's run the animation. At this point then, the driver of the red vehicle could have stopped, had the time because it was amber for him while he was still a distance from the intersection. However, he's just blindly following the drivers ahead of him. So the driver of the blue vehicle's already crossed, the driver of the green vehicle's already at the point of exiting from the intersection. This driver still has the time to exit, and so he's oblivious to what the traffic light is showing for him, the red traffic light, just blindly following the drivers ahead of him, assuming that it's safe to go because they all crossed the intersection. Because it's green for the driver of the green vehicle, he's now just assuming that it's safe to go. However, there's the collision in the intersection because he hadn't stopped, just blindly following the drivers ahead of him. That's what we see now in this real life clip. Camera's waiting. At this point, it's gone amber, still red for the camera. Now turns green for the camera. So for these drivers, at this stage, it must have already shown red for them. However, they're just blindly following the driver ahead of them. So these drivers going, at this stage, you can see quite a number of seconds had already passed for these drivers to realize that it was red for them and for them to stop. They didn't have to proceed. The camera now just assumes because it was green for him, it's safe to go. However, he catches this late traffic. So just be cautious of when you see drivers blindly following others. Be aware that if there's that line of traffic, that the drivers more towards the back of that line might just blatantly go ahead, not even bothering to check the traffic light, just assuming that it's safe for them to go because the drivers ahead of them are going, and one could land up in a situation such as this. In the next animation, what I'm showing over here is that although the traffic light is red for these two vehicles, because the driver of the blue vehicle is closer to the intersection and he notices perhaps that the driver of the green vehicle is still a fair distance from the intersection, he quickly takes a chance to slip by into the side road because this vehicle's still far enough away for him to safely do that, even though the traffic light is red for him. However, now the driver of the red vehicle, who's a little bit of a distance from the intersection still, thinks that it's safe for him to go because the driver ahead of him in the blue vehicle has quickly slipped through the intersection. However, because the traffic light was green for the driver of the green vehicle, he assumes that it's safe to go, and so there's the collision in the center. So here we have exactly that scenario. Traffic light is green for the camera. I notice the driver of the truck has quickly slipped into the side road, perhaps noticed that the camera was still a distance from the intersection, feels that it's safe to do so, and so slips into the side road. However, the driver behind him now just assumes it's safe for him to do exactly the same thing, perhaps doesn't even bother to check the color of the traffic light. It's just blindly following the vehicle ahead of him. The camera thinks that it's safe for him to go because it's green, and so the two collide in the center. In this last animation, it's not that the driver of the red vehicle is now following any vehicles ahead of him. He doesn't have any vehicles ahead of him. But I've inserted this animation just to stress once again one of the most important points when it comes to traffic lights. And that is that if you're waiting for the traffic light to go green and it does go green, then never assume that it's safe to go simply because the traffic light is now green for you. One still has to check the intersection to see if there are any oncoming vehicles before entering the intersection. So in other words, there we go, it's now green for the driver of the green vehicle. So he has the right of way to go, but having the right of way to go doesn't mean that it's safe to go. One still needs to check for any approaching vehicles entering from the side road. And that's the point of this animation. Never just assume that it's safe to go because the traffic light has gone green for you. Driver goes ahead without checking and suffers the consequences. Yeah, we've got a real life clip to illustrate this. You can see it at this point, it's red for vehicles traveling in this direction across the intersection. It's now gone green. The driver of the van assumes that he can go ahead because it's green for him. However, there's still oncoming vehicles in the side road, and especially where it's a larger vehicle in the form of a bus or a truck, they don't have the same stopping distance and time as other normal vehicles, and so because of that, perhaps they tend to want to still cross the intersection because they can't stop in time to avoid the intersection, and so this driver goes ahead. The van driver thinks it's safe to go and collides in the center. So always make sure that it's safe to enter the intersection. Even though the traffic light has gone green for you, still make sure that it's safe to enter the intersection. Please like, subscribe, and get notified.